Yo, Vaporman here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Senate inquiry that happened recently. There was well over 12 hours of bovine excrement, and although I can't get through it all, I'll give you the choice pieces and my thoughts on them. I'd like to begin today with the subject of Avali. Now, although it wasn't mentioned by name, I'm almost positive this is what they were speaking about. And if you don't know what Avali is, it was one case in one region of one country where a state had made e-cigarettes illegal. There were black THC or cannabis or marijuana cigarettes on the market that used an oil-based liquid. Do not vape oil-based liquids. It's terribly harmful for your health. Furthermore, they used something called vitamin E acetate. These illegal black market, criminal dealers used vitamin E acetate, and that caused lung collapse, it caused deaths, it caused a whole bunch of stuff. Now, the health department thought it was a good idea to keep conflating these illegal THC vapes with e-cigarettes that use a liquid-based nicotine liquid, which is much safer than smoking cigarettes. And just, it seems like minutes before the Senate inquiry started, they took that off their website, even though ATHRA was screaming at the top of their lungs, this is misinformation, this information is 12 years old, you need to take it down immediately, you're causing harm to the community. But let me just, I'm gonna put some subtitles down the bottom here just so you can fully understand what I'm talking about. So this is regarding the whole health department Avali thing. So, and you can quote me on this. Them fools was playing, y'all, but them punk asses were busted. Suckers are still trying to play us for fools. But this mad dog senator is spitting truth, see? Now listen up, y'all. I be interpreting via scripture. To my mind, this is the straight up down low. Check it out.
There was a really recent update to your website around vaping, attributing the deaths in the US that Dr. Murphy claimed that there had been deaths at the recent estimates around vaping in the US, and your website's just recently been updated to acknowledge that these have been linked to illegal THC products and not actually nicotine-based vaping. I hope, mate, you can take this on notice for me when this update occurred, because I'm pretty sure it happened yesterday afternoon. So if you can maybe get some information.
Absolutely take it on notice.
Yeah.
I would point out that we update our website all the time on the basis of emerging.
I do understand though this information was.
So it'd be very usual to update the website very often. We'll take
on
notice.
The CDC in the US released at least 12 months ago that these deaths were linked to illegal THC.
We'll take on notice exactly when it was.
So if we could just get some information when that was updated. But also assure us that with regards to vaping and perhaps any other matters, any of these outstanding misleading information has been updated.
Well, I wouldn't accept for a moment that anything on our website is misleading or incorrect. We do update things as evidence emerges and as new things are found all the time. We'd certainly invite any senator or any citizen to alert us to anything they've got concerns about.
Yeah, I understand ATHRA alerted this to you over 12 months ago and it was updated, I believe, yesterday.
It's extreme importance to us to make sure that evidence and that information is correct and up to date at all times.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah. No, look, if anybody on Twitter has ever been blocked by somebody from public health, give this video a like. Yeah, you're definitely accepting of evidence from the public or being corrected by the public, absolutely. The next thing I would like to cover, because I don't just want this all to be from the favourable senators, so this next one is from a Labor senator from Victoria, who will not be getting my vote at the next election, I can guarantee you. This is what is known around political circles and in Parliament as a Dorothy Dixer. A Dorothy Dixer is basically a question where it's like you ask somebody a question so they can speak about something. For example, your friend has nice shoes and they're like, hey, I want to talk about my shoes to the group, but I don't want to look like I'm bragging, so ask me a question about my shoes. The Dorothy Dixer would be, hey, those are cool shoes. Can you tell me a little bit more about them? And then the friend can brag by going, oh, they just asked me the question. Here is what I believe to be a Dorothy Dixer by the Victorian senator to talk specifically about Avali, and she didn't get the memo that they had to take it down for whatever reason. Watch the health department scurry like rats and try to communicate through telepathy to this senator that, no, we're not talking about Avali anymore. We're not talking about Avali anymore.
In relation to more recent research, what is perhaps the most compelling, more recent research that identifies the harm of e-cigarettes?
Well, Dr. Towler, it's Caroline Edwards again. Dr. Towler outlined before that there's a large body of evidence, and she made some examples earlier, which will be on the transcript. We can revisit those if you'd like, Senator. But you could also take on notice, perhaps, to provide a summary, not exhaustive, obviously, of some of the key items, references to provide to the committee, so that you would have that access to that.
I would appreciate if you could provide the committee with a summary of some of the more recent evidence and reports as to their findings.
We'd be happy to do that.
Of course, that would just be very helpful for the committee.
We'd be happy to do that.
Oh, she looks ecstatic to do that, doesn't she? She looks so happy. Look at her. Oh, I'll be happy to do that. I'll be happy to show you the evidence that we had to take down because it was misinforming the public. Yeah, great. Great work there. Look, the Organisation of Public Health in this country is pathetic. Vaping has been around for over 15 years. And everything is like, oh, we'll have to get that to you on questioners on notice. Oh, no, we're going to have to scurry like rats on the Titanic while the politicians move around the deck chairs. I mean, it's ridiculous. The resources versus the results are absolutely abysmal. Let me show you a little bit more.
How does Australia's smoking rate compare internationally?
Oh, I can give a number.
Professor Skerritt.
It's down to about 11% across the community as a whole. So that still benchmarks quite well internationally. It benchmarks, for example, below the European figures. Ms. Appleyard may have the other country figures at your fingers.
Also draw your attention to the department's submission, Senator. I think you'll find starting from page 11 and also in there, but Ms Appleyard can help now.
Senator Sharon Appleyard, I actually don't have the figures at hand for the international comparison, but what I can say is we have absolutely one of the lowest smoking prevalence rates in the world, and that's due to the comprehensive suite of tobacco control measures we've had in place for 20 to 30 years.
Seeing as public health doesn't have the resources to be able to get that graph to a Senate inquiry 15 years after a device has been brought into the market, let this unemployed idiot in a garage show you a graph. You see that graph? Oh, no, but compared to Africa and third world countries, our smoking prevalence is one of the lowest in the world. We're slipping. We're slipping. People have been blocked on Twitter for sharing this with public health officials. And oh, lo and behold, they couldn't find this specific information. I wonder why. In a recent Age article, the claim from Quit Victoria was that 11.6% of Victorians smoke cigarettes. And the Age isn't pro-vaping or pro-smoking, but they decided that they'd somewhat correct the record by saying that the most recent data suggests that 16.7% of Victorians report that they smoke. Now, why is there such a big discrepancy between these numbers? Well, another institution, KPMG, have estimated that the amount of illicit tobacco, that is people buying cigarettes being shipped illegally from overseas to Australia and smoking them, is up to 20% of all cigarettes smoked. That means 1 in 5 smokers is doing so illegally, either through illicit, regular packaged cigarettes or through the illegal chop shop of people either growing here or importing loose leaf tobacco themselves. Look, it's like they're just squishing the statistics to kind of be favourable to what they want it to be, and completely ignoring the actual real world and the evidence. Public health, the TGA, and the health department, the leadership needs to go. The leadership needs to go. They've been dropping the ball. Their policies aren't working. It's almost 20% by some estimates of how many people smoke in this country. But because, oh, it's part of the black market, we don't want to see it, we don't want to see it. They block anybody who brings any evidence and just dismisses them as though, oh, that's just anecdote, that's just nothing. There are empty plain packaged cigarettes down my street. What, you think in the western suburbs people are going to be paying $40 for a pack of cigarettes? Get real. You gotta go. You gotta go. You're getting paid too much and you're doing far too little. A further example of this is Emily Banks. Watch this.
actually. The eligibility criteria, who did exactly write that up or determine that?
So we determine the eligibility criteria before we look at any of the studies. So it was developed
sorry,
within
that's not
the team.
my question. Who did it?
It was the team. It was our
Who's
team.
the team?
They're listed.
But sorry, so who is the team? What do you mean they are
You've
listed?
received the report. I can send you a list of all of the people who did it.
Was that from the Department of Health? Or?
No, it's out. It was led by me.
Okay.
And it is a team of researchers at the National Centre for Epidemiology and Population Health.
Look at how she was avoiding the question. That's not the act of a scientist, that's the act of a damn politician, okay? And now what she's going to do is she's going to try and deflect from her own, whatever it is that she's trying to do there, and try and put down the results of one of the most well-respected organizations when it comes to tobacco in the world, which is the Cochrane Group. Watch this. Watch how she tries to deflect away from the fact that she just,
I'd also like to add regarding the Cochrane review that they used a random effects meta-analysis, and what we found was that is not necessarily totally justified. We used both a random effects and a fixed effects meta-analysis and found you actually get different results, which means that the results are not robust to the different statistical assumptions. So it is another example of there being insufficient evidence.
I'm just conscious of time, and perhaps
look at the smug look. Look at the smug look. It's like, I successfully spun that one out of the way, and now people aren't going to look at reality and logic anymore. No. Look, I was doing some research and I went back to 1983 in a BBC report on big tobacco companies. Take a listen to this big tobacco executive and listen to the kinds of excuses he used back in 1983 and see if you can spot the similarities.
The industry's position, as you are aware, is that the evidence, the scientific evidence that's being produced is not conclusive in relation to a causal connection between smoking and human health.
Are you saying that that link, as such, has not yet been established?
Well, that's what the scientific facts say.
Your interpretation of the scientific facts?
No, that's what the scientific facts say, Christopher.
Well, they'd need to claim that, because if ever they admit that fact, lawsuits will tumble down on them to the extent that forces them out of business of their own accord.
That was the former Premier of Western Australia speaking just then. But I'd like to go back to Miss Banks. Watch this rehearsed, very well rehearsed and well polished little piece of bleh.
So I'm just going to finish with this because I think you and I have a very different viewpoint regardless of the report not being finalised yet. But you state in your submission that the overall health impacts of e-cigarettes is unclear, implying that there might be significant risks, and I think you've evidenced that today. But there is universal agreement that long-term vaping is almost certain to be far safer than smoking because of the carcinogenics in cigarettes and the dramatic reduction that there is in exposure to toxins. So do you in any way agree that switching to vaping is likely to lead to substantial health improvements?
I cannot preempt the outcomes of our review. I apologise, Senator. I wish it was finished in time for this inquiry, but I cannot preempt the outcomes.
Okay.
I cannot preempt the outcomes of this review. I'm sorry, Senator. My dog ate my homework. I had 15 years and millions of dollars of resources to find out about this stuff, but it wasn't in time for this review. Give me a damn break. I just did a well-polished bovine excrement dissertation. Where's my $750,000 a year? Jesus Murphy. Emily Banks, you are smug and you are ignorant. And you are acting more like a politician than a scientist. In my opinion, you are a smugnerant scientician. Here's more.
Vaping is a lot less harmful than smoking a cigarette. That it eliminates almost all the harmful toxins from tobacco smoke. So would you agree with that as a principle, that all of those carcinogenics, those 7,000 chemicals from burning tobacco are eliminated via vaping?
I cannot comment on the direct health effects of e-cigarettes.
But eliminating cigarettes eliminates 7,000 carcinogens from a cigarette. Do you agree that
there are many thousand chemicals in e-cigarettes?
No, in cigarettes. I'm talking about combustible tobacco.
I cannot be drawn on this. I am not able to preempt the outcomes.
I'm asking you how many combustible, in a combustible cigarette, how many carcinogens are there? How many chemicals are there?
I cannot comment on the
cigarettes?
outcomes of the review.
Really?
But what
On
I can
cigarettes?
say is that
Cigarettes
there
are
is
available at a supermarket.
there is a clear...
Be very clear on what she's doing here, right? She's throwing vaping under the bus and defending cigarettes. She's supposed to work for public health. In that clip, she was defending cigarettes. Now, look. Let's go back to the 1980s. There was a group called Bugger Up. And there was one particular doctor who said something that was as true then as it is today.
And I said, this has got to stop if I have to stop it myself.
Abso-friggin-lutely. They're no longer even looking at logic. They claim to be scientists, and they don't even use the basic form of the pillar that holds science up, which is logic. Now, for those of you who don't know about Bugger Up, fair enough, it was a long time ago, but they used to go around and spray paint all these billboards and stuff, right? And, you know, it was a great thing that they did. I mean, I'm not sure how effective stopping the advertising was, seeing as smoking numbers are still very high and it's just gone to a black market now. All of this plain packaging, tax rises and advertising. But hey, I'm all for publicly getting out there and putting out a message when health officials, the TGA, and some senators are just dropping the ball on this. Which is why Vaporman has decided to put the band back together, so to speak. It's time for Bugger Up to go away because you buggered up, and now it's time to bugger off. I'm not sure what all the letters stand for, but the V stands for vaping. Let me know in the comments what you think all the letters of this stand for. Now, look, there was somebody else in Bugger Up. I don't know, they didn't put the name in the BBC report, but you know, when you're right, you're right. And I agree with every single word this man says. Now, keep in mind, he does look like Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber, but when you're right, you're right.
Most of the people in Bugger Up have worked for years through the so-called correct channels, and it's literally being a bang your head against the wall exercise. Conservative governments aren't interested in acting with any force against the tobacco industry because they are dependent in some sense on revenue being brought in. And I think that ordinary citizens who can make a statement are making it in ways like this.
Oh no, I'm getting the hang of this really quickly, the first time, and it works like a charm.
Like banging your head against a brick wall. And hopefully, it is as easy on the first try like it was before. Now, that's an aerosol. If you don't know, now you know!